When I started my business 3 years ago, I didn't know what I needed. I felt very confident in what I could grow because I had a background in brand and marketing for 13 plus years. I had started other businesses. I had a successful Reiki healing business. I had grown a content business to over 5,000 subscribers in 6 months. I had successes under my belt. When I thought I am going to do coaching full time and leave my corporate career, that was a big leap. And I have learned so many things since then. I have had many moments where I've been naive and I've either overinvested or overcommitted myself. It's been interesting because as we wind down this year, fall for me has always been a very reflective time. And I think about what I've let go of, what I've released. I think about the spaciousness in my life that will probably be consumed by the holidays and holiday gatherings and connection with people. But one big thing that I'm taking away this year has been there is a distinct difference between just women getting together and gathering for the sake of gathering and the right women connecting in an intentional space in a way that is for the greater good of that group. Welcome to Confessions of a Spiritual Entrepreneur. I'm Samantha Fackler, your host, business mentor, brand strategist, and someone who believes that building a business is one of the most spiritual journeys you can take. I am here to help you grow your business through proven strategies and aligned practices, so ultimately you can make more money while being in a state of ease. I've worked with brands that you, your mom, and your grandma know, almost 14 years in the brand and marketing space. But I am also spiritual. I love astrology, I keep crystals in my desk, and I'm a Reiki master. So I bring an extra little flavor to this conversation. Let's get into it. Since the start of my coaching business 3 years ago, full time, I have been a part of many different communities and groups of women. And I always sought these out because I didn't realize becoming an entrepreneur is so lonely. You are growing, you are testing ideas on your own, you are in your head so much. And it's this constant practice of coming back to our gut instinct, our intuition, our heart when we're driving a business that feels really purpose driven. Now, if you're anything like me, you are probably ambitious and you want to succeed. You want to grow your business. You want to see your clients flourish. You want to see people have life changing experiences with your product. That's a lot of pressure. I don't think we realize how much pressure we put on ourselves. And it's really difficult to, one, recognize what we are committing ourselves to, even if it's subconscious. And two, I think it requires a lot of work to peel off some of these layers, some of this pressure, and come back to a sense of joy in our business and our day to day lives. Now, I joined many different communities over the course of the last 3 years. I worked with different mentors or coaches, and I have had a large range of experiences. I have been a part of certain groups and met incredible women. I have been connected to people who have completely changed my business with their own gifts, whether it was something they said or maybe they took part in my business. Then there are also people that had more negative energies and projected a lot on me and told me what to do. And I followed those things, but they never worked out. When someone's projecting on you, they're throwing their energy into your world. And that typically is not going to mesh well with what you're doing. And as a coach, I place so much value on agency and sovereignty as a business owner. Like, you are the CEO, you know what's best at the end of the day. But sometimes when we put these layers and layers and layers of pressure on, it can be hard to connect to the deeper parts, the ones that know when the timing is right for something or when a decision needs to be made, which direction it should go. I was actually going to do this episode on community, but I think it makes more sense to talk about this pressure. Pressure comes from us either consciously or subconsciously signing up for something. So maybe we sign up for an ambitious goal. Maybe we sign up to be the world's greatest boss or the world's greatest partner, daughter, mother, friend, etc. And we often have no idea of these lists that we have created for ourselves that we're operating from. And so, one practice that I like to do around this time of year is to check in with myself and see what are the different roles that I have assumed, and do I need to change the way that I'm showing up for these? Do I need to change my relationship with these different things in my life? And I think as a woman and as a business owner, this is so valuable because we tend to be nurturing, we tend to be gatherers in a primal sense, and like to be in groups and community and serving, but we forget about ourselves and we forget how much clarity and connection can come from just taking a moment to be alone and to check in with how are we showing up. And I know for me, I have had to do a hard audit of friendships. Like, how many times am I reaching out versus them? Am I trying to be the perfect friend, daughter, business owner, etc.? And what if I didn't have to be so perfect? What if I could just show up as a messy, incomplete, sometimes overwhelmed business owner? And I think that if we can just feel what that is occasionally, like feel the overwhelm or feel the anxiety or feel the weight of perfectionism as it comes on, it allows us to move through it because we need to recognize it first. That's the first step. And then the second step is transmuting that. And I think one thing that I like to do that brings me out of all this and the mess and the chaos is to connect with myself, my body, like let my spine stack tall, breathe into my belly, breathe into my chest, breathe into the top of my head. And then I pretend like there's kind of this like greater energy, this greater light, greater consciousness, whatever you want to call it. And it feels very pure. It feels like unconditional love. And that is how I feel inspiration. And that, when I connect there, I feel, oh, I feel a sense of relaxation. I feel like there are less conditions placed upon me by myself. And so that is a practice that I'm starting to do every weekend because we don't need to be perfect. We don't need to be perfect business owners. There is absolutely no such thing. There is no such thing as a perfect business. I hate to tell it to you. I've spoken to founders of 6, 7, 8, 9-figure businesses. Surprisingly, they all have very similar grievances. Maybe different pressures, different things, different dynamics based on the level that they're playing at. But you would be surprised at how similar your experience is to someone that maybe is a few levels above you or a few levels behind you. I think we're all trying to figure it out as we go. And when we give ourselves some grace, and this is the big word here, acceptance, suddenly things feel a little lighter. Things feel a little easier, and we can make better decisions. Now, I want to speak to community because I think the word community is so overblown. And it's just like, oh gosh, I don't even like it. I think we need a new name, to be honest, because the communities that I have been a part of are completely different depending on their size and who's running them. I have been a part of massive communities that are very well known, run by very famous people with hundreds to thousands of members. And they have constant virtual trainings and events, and they have yearly conferences, and like it's a whole operation. I've also been a part of communities that are more micro communities, so less than 100 people, even less than like 300 people, but there's a much more intimate feel. Both have served me in different ways along this journey, but I think starting with the macro communities that I've been a part of, while the trainings have been really valuable, I have not actually met and connected with people on a deeper level. Even when I show up in person, it just feels almost like too big for there to be genuine conversations and genuine collaborations. It almost feels like people join that large network simply to find leads, to find people who will do trades, but ultimately sell their services. It feels very sales driven from a member standpoint. The micro communities are a bit different. There is typically less solicitation and a more genuine connection and collaboration because it's smaller. And every single space is going to be completely different energetically based on who is hosting that space, who has created that space, because their energy imbues that community, right? It's like this, I don't know why this word's coming up, but like womb, like their community is this place that they've given birth to, and it has all these elements that draw back to who they are and their demeanor and their personality and what they stand for. And I have started my own community this year, and I really wanted to talk about it in a deeply honest, raw way because there were a couple of intentions for this community and why I introduced it this year. One, I felt like I had these amazing clients that I love, but like good coaching comes to an end at a certain point because they've achieved their goals. You've helped them in all the ways that you possibly can. And then they're on to the next thing where they might be investing in a different type of service provider or taking their business a different direction. And so, it was like, how can I stay in touch with these women? And also, how can I connect my clients and past clients because they're so amazing? I love them so much. And there would be so much value. I could see the connections, but it was really hard for me to continue to do, intros over email. I just didn't have the bandwidth for that. So that was one. Two, when I thought about, my beginning journey, I had to blindly trust some people on the internet based on what I saw in order to learn new things and how to grow my business. Since the internet, our digital world is constantly evolving, there's always new things to learn. But what I found is that I kind of got burned by certain coaches that didn't actually do what they promised, or they wouldn't actually ask me and coach me. They were just projecting on me what I should do. And like I said before, I learned that that is not the way forward. We need to have access to our own intuition and knowing and work with people who can help us actually pull out these things so that we can move forward in the most aligned way. And when we do that, it's more efficient, it's faster, and we hit our goals, and opportunities that we haven't even dreamed of can come through. So I wanted to create a space that felt really safe, that felt intentional, that felt like, if I'm going to be the host of it, I want to show up. I want to be generous. I want to share a lot of value. I want to create spaces where these women can genuinely connect and have conversations. I want to know the people in my community. I don't want to treat them like a number. And I want there to be a free space. And will there be a paid space eventually? Yeah, I'm sure, because that's how communities scale and build. And as a coach, I'm actively trying to figure out, hey, I have all this value. Every single private client session feels like there are huge breakthroughs. How do I scale that value to groups, to, larger populations of people? And this year, I technically had a space for the paid community, but I let it lie. I didn't want that yet. I wanted to first focus on the free community and grow it and nurture it and have this be a huge priority this year in my business. And I'm really proud of what I've built. And I'm really proud of the women that have come through. I'm getting emotional. I had no idea that communities could feel this way, could feel so connected. Okay, I'm full blown crying now. When I started, it's like when you start a community, when you start anything that's group oriented, you have to put yourself out there and you have to, deliver and really tap into that generosity of giving without expecting anything in return. And that was honestly a challenge for me because I came from the corporate world where everything had a dollar attached to it. So if you're starting a community and doing all this free stuff, there was this little voice in the back of my head that was like, well, why aren't people engaging more? Why aren't they talking more? Why aren't they wanting to work with me outside of this? And I learned that that voice was just from this corporate conditioning, and I could actually quiet that voice and release it and come back to this spirit of, hey, let me make a space that I would have loved when I started my business. And I'm really proud to say that is what it's become. And over the last 4 or 5 months that it's been here, we now have about 75 women in the space, and we have introduced things like women's circles where I can actually bring my intuitive gifts in and I set the tone for the group. It's really grounding. I allow messages to come in, and there's this shared sense of energy and connection. There are experts coming in sharing their gifts every month. There are master classes on PR and SEO and all this stuff that, sometimes you just want like a bite sized training on. And there are spaces for women who have podcasts to talk about, everything about hosting. There are office hours every 2 weeks that people can come in, and I do hot seat coaching free of charge. And that's been something where I've had to continually come back and tap into that feeling of, okay, this is generosity. This is sharing value without expecting anything in return. And when I come back to that and I come back to the authentic nature of this space and really thinking about, infusing it with as much support as possible for women, whether they're early stage or they're later on, but they just seek kind of these genuine connections, the more activity I see, the more women that pop in out of nowhere. And I welcome everyone and I'm like, hey, I'm so glad you're here. How did you find us? And what I find more often than not is it's through the podcasts or through YouTube or through a friend. I can't tell you how grateful I am for every single woman in this community. I'm crying again. I just think it's so cool. It's been so awesome to see these women connect and laugh with each other and start to even like work with each other on the sides. Like I hear like, oh yeah, I met with like so and so in the community last week and we're doing a collab. And like my whole being, like every cell in my body right now feels like it's like celebrating. Like it has a little kazoo and like a party hat. And it's like, yeah. Because that's what I wanted to introduce, and then to see it actually happen is so magical. I think just like my gratitude for it has gone through the roof. But again, it's just the spirit of a micro community that's less than a couple hundred women and a place where people actually get to have conversation virtually. So no matter where you are in the world, no matter what your situation is, if you're a busy mom and you pop on camera and your child's there with you or is in and out the whole time, or you're traveling and you're dialing in, I've had women dial in from South Africa and Ecuador and Greece, and it's the United States, Europe. It's just so cool. And if you're listening to this and you're in headquarters, just thank you so much. I am so happy that you're a part of this space. If you're not in it yet but curious, the link is always in the show notes. It's also in my links bio on Instagram. It's on my website. I just want to leave this with like, if you're feeling alone in your business or like there are gaps of things that you want to learn about, just find your people, find trusted people and referrals and word of mouth, and try not to go off of who just like has the biggest following on Instagram. At the end of the day, trust yourself and see what can happen with yourself when you show up in these spaces and you're able to let yourself just be you. I think that's a big part that kind of wraps up everything from this episode together, which is like one of the things underpinning all of this stuff in the community is I wanted a place that you didn't have to show up and perform and try and say, hey, I have this amazing business and here's why, and you should work with me. No, this is the space to be like, hey, this is my business. I'm stressed about this. I have 3 kids. I'm trying to build my business during nap times. And I'm also launching a podcast, and I kind of feel stressed, but I feel excited, and I'm trying to figure out this. Like, that's the kind of conversation I wanted to make space for. And I think like the larger the community, the harder it is for people to show up vulnerably and share this stuff and just like pull off the roles that they're carrying, pull off the expectations, get rid of like, oh, I have to be this certain way. You don't. And I think I've honestly been able to create that space. And for example, I had a call yesterday. It was a women's circle call. And so there were some women from the community that joined. And I like had no makeup on. I was very relaxed when I showed up. And so were some of the other women. One of them was like, yeah, I'm not wearing a bra. And you're lucky I'm wearing pants. And it's just so like raw. And I think we need more spaces like that in our world that, yeah, just allow us to be who we are, however we may be in the moment. And there's so much freedom in that. There's so much like, yeah, alignment once we can release ourselves and relax into that space. To wrap this up with a not so pretty bow, one, take stock of like what are all the roles and pressures that you've put on yourself to date. And two, see if you can do that, little bit of breath work of breathing into your belly, breathing into your chest, breathing into your head, and then kind of connecting to this like greater kind of pure light or energy, unconditional love. If you have a spiritual belief, maybe it's, a higher power that you believe in, whatever it is. Sometimes I just simply think of my unconditional love for my dog, and that actually brings in so much inspiration and can help us just honestly practice self compassion and then, de escalate the pressures that we have put on ourselves, either consciously or subconsciously, so that we can show up more authentically and so that we can make connections with the genuine people that are actually going to help us move forward as a person, a woman, a business owner. Because again, I believe that women are meant to connect. We are meant to gather in order to grow. And I'm really proud of Headquarters, my free community for women business owners. And it's been one of the greatest joys of honestly my entire professional career. I guess if you could, it's such like a lame way of saying it, but this has been one of the greatest joys of my entire work life is to see this space come to life, to see these women make these genuine connections and to show up exactly who they are and ask for what they need and then be able to connect and kind of like create these threads between people and true experts and people who need that expertise and to see it all start to gel together. So with that, thank you so much for being here. I hope you got something out of today. No matter what it is, big or small, I would love to know. If you can shoot me a DM on Instagram at samantha.fackler. I read all of them. I would love to hear what your listening experience has been like during this episode. If you are new here, please give a rating or review. They go such a long way in helping this material reach more women business owners. And again, I will see you in Headquarters to talk more about the episode offline. Thank you all.